The scale of the destruction in Nepal is devastating, and the images we are seeing out of the affected areas are upsetting. The damage to infrastructure and the economy has been immense. We know from recent experience the suffering an earthquake of this magnitude can bring, and how difficult the response and the recovery can be. We know also how important it is to work with authorities to coordinate a response to ensure that it is beneficial. We also learned from the Christchurch earthquakes that no country has to face this alone. The international community stands ready to help. In New Zealand's case, there is immense goodwill between New Zealand and Nepal based on our links through Sir Edmund Hillary and the ongoing work of the Hillary Trust. In recognition of this special relationship and in response to the scale of the tragedy, we have announced an initial contribution of $1 million to the immediate relief effort, and we will continue to assess how we can further assist both in the short term and in the coming years, because as we know from our own experience, recovery takes a long time. This funding will be delivered to agencies that are active on the ground and have the capability to provide immediate assistance. We have also deployed 3 consular staff to Kathmandu to support our honorary consul and to provide assistance to New Zealanders in response to the earthquake. We have confirmed the well-being of 236 New Zealanders in Nepal. Given the scale of this disaster and the fact that communications remain intermittent, it may take time to account for all the New Zealanders in the affected areas. Again, on behalf of this House and all New Zealanders, I extend our condolences to Prime Minister of Nepal, Sushil Koirala, and the Nepalese people during this difficult time. We also offer our condolences to all of those affected in Bangladesh, China, India and Pakistan that have been affected by this tragedy.
The question is the motion be agreed to. Honourable
Mr Speaker, the Labour Party joins the Acting Prime Minister in expressing our sympathy to the people of Nepal following a horrendous 7.8 magnitude earthquake. Our thoughts go out to the thousands of Nepalese people who have lost family and friends and who have suffered injury. Over 4,000 have died and the numbers are still growing. Over 7,000 have been injured and 100,000 are homeless. We would also want the families of the New Zealanders who are still missing to know that we are thinking of them at this time. The Himalaya front can produce some very powerful earthquakes. In 1934, there was an 8.2 magnitude earthquake which hit Nepal. The difference this time is that on Saturday, this earthquake was relatively shallow, intensifying the surface shaking, and the epicentre was closer to Kathmandu. It's been reported that the earthquake ruptured under the city, creating the worst-case scenario. A massive block of the Earth's crust, roughly 120 kilometres long and 60 kilometres wide, lurched 3 metres to the south, according to a world-renowned expert on Himalayan earthquakes. The result has been catastrophic for Nepal, but the effects and the loss of life has also extended, as the Acting Prime Minister said, to China, Pakistan and Bangladesh and India, and we send our condolences to the families of those countries as well. We think particularly of the 5 Nepalese employees of the Wanaka Mountain Guiding Company, Adventure Consultants, who were killed on Saturday, and we are thankful that 5 New Zealanders on an Everest expedition with the company were unharmed. Sir Edmund Hillary said before he died that he wanted New Zealand to look after the Himalayan people, people that he had devoted his life to, and a country through him we feel close to. His daughter Sarah said on Sunday that Sir Ed would be horrified and saddened by the devastating earthquake. She said, however, his first concern would be for the people, and I urge our government to redouble our efforts to help the Nepalese people. Sometimes, as happened in Christchurch, friends don't wait to be asked to help, they just go. It's not a time to think about what might be done that could be helpful. It's a time for action and to repay the generosity shown to New Zealand and, Mr Speaker, to reinforce our reputation as a good international citizen. I do believe there is more we could and should do, and I look forward to hearing what further contribution the government will make. But also, I urge New Zealanders to dig deep and to donate whatever they can. And I know that Oxfam and UNICEF are collecting now. Every bit, Mr Speaker, will help.
Dr Russell-Norman.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. The Green Party extends our condolences and sympathies to the people of Nepal and to those in the region who have been affected by this quake. Our thoughts are with the Nepalese community in New Zealand, in particular, those who have lost friends and family. Our thoughts are also with New Zealand families who are waiting to hear about people who are still missing. We hope that good news of your loved ones reaches you soon. The Green Party acknowledges the contribution of the government so far, and we hope that the government can commit further in the fullness of time to support the Nepalese recovery and rebuild. New Zealanders know firsthand about the damage caused by earthquakes, and it's not just about bricks and mortar. The confirmed death toll is now over 4,000, and the number of people who have lost their homes is already estimated to be in the hundreds of thousands. Those who lived in the oldest, most unstable buildings will have lost the most. People in Kathmandu are camping in public spaces because they do not feel safe going back into their homes or because their homes have been destroyed. There is a race against the clock to clean up, with the monsoon season beginning in just a few weeks. Many people will no longer have a roof over their heads to keep them dry. Slips in the countryside are a real danger, on hills and in valleys that have been destabilised by the earthquake and its aftershocks. Reports from rural hospitals have highlighted the lack of diesel to keep their generators going. They're relying on electricity generated by solar panels, but they don't have enough panels to light both the operating theatres and the general wards at the same time. This is a reminder that self-sufficient energy sources can be invaluable at times of crisis when normal fuel supplies aren't available. It's important that New Zealand helps out as best we can. At this point, that may simply be sending money to the aid agencies on the ground who know what is needed most, and we'd encourage the government to help. But we'd also encourage New Zealanders to help. It seems like Nepal may not need our urban search and rescue team, but there may be other opportunities for New Zealand to support the people of Nepal in their recovery. The average income in Nepal is less than $500 a year. A lesson from the 2010 Haiti earthquakes is that recovery is even more complex in poorer countries. Even 5 years after the quakes, there's still much work to be done in Haiti. Other members have mentioned that there is a rich history between New Zealand and Nepal, centred on the work of Sir Ed and Lady June Hillary with the Himalayan Trust. New Zealand will feature in Nepal's long-term rebuild through the work of the Himalayan Trust. There are encouraging reports that signs of normality are returning in Nepal. Markets are selling food and traffic is slowly returning to the streets of Kathmandu. But we know from our experiences in Canterbury that the human cost, the damage to people's lives, is not easily repaired. It takes time. New Zealanders know the ongoing dread of aftershocks, the anxiety that keeps you awake at night, and the unease brought on by the smallest shake. But we also know that over time, things get better. We hope that people in Nepal find support and strength in their families and communities at home and abroad as they rebuild their homes and their lives. We send our aroha and best wishes to them.
Tracy Martin.
Kia ora, Mr Speaker. New Zealand has a strong and long-standing special bond There is a long-standing and special bond between Nepal and New Zealand. The Brigade of Gurkhas only last Friday marched with their pipes and drums alongside our own in the Anzac Day parades here in Wellington. And the Brigade of Gurkhas then stood alongside our own dignitaries, military personnel and tens of thousands at the Pukarahu National War Memorial to commemorate Anzac Day. And we hope that they have arrived home safely. We hope that they have arrived home and found their families safe, because this bond was then enhanced and strengthened through the work of Sir Ed and his family, in honour of his good friend Sherpa Tenzing. So New Zealand First stands to join with the other members of political parties in this House to add our condolences, to add our best wishes. We also add our voice to the calls for more from the government, for speedy responses, for And I take on board the comments of the Green Party member that this will go on for some time. So it's not only to be quick in the first moment, but we need to be there for the long haul for our friends. So New Zealand First will participate in any way that we can to join with the rest of the Parliament to support our friends and our neighbours in this time of their need. Kia ora.
The Honourable to Ururau-Flavel.
Tēnā koe, Mr Speaker, kia ora tātou katoa. Mr Speaker, i te wae, kōrero hiana ngā mate i roto i te ao Māori. E hari te mea ka kōrero mo te āhuatanga o te hunga i tā wāhira anō i tōna kotahi. E hari te mea ka kōrero hia te āhuatanga o ngā mate o te wā kāinga. Me pēnei rawa te kōrero ka kōrero hia ka tōtia rātou i te wā kotahi. Ke tāia e tātou te ki, te hunga mate. Kōrero hiana i te wā kotahi, ke ngā wari mai ai te āhuatanga o te ngaua mamai, ki runga i tēnā, i tēnā, i tēnā. Nō ere me pēnei rawa te kōrero i te wiki kua hipa ke tai atu au ki te tangihanga o Martha a Taiaroa. Te wahine, te paueru o Archie, i tēnei ata tonu nei, rongo nei au mo te matenga o Monty Ohia, matua nei, a rāua, ka tāpiri hea atu ki ngā mate e kōrero hiake nei tā wāhi. Ke tāia e tātou te tuku roimata mō rātou katoa. E kore tae te karo i amate me tōna haere i te mato o te whenua, ara, i te rū o te whenua no hoki i tā wāhi. Ko wā ia a Aotearoa ki tēnei āhuatanga. Ko tērā o ngā rū i tū ki o tautahi, anā, ko wā ia mātou ki te āhuatanga o mate. Nō reira, ko tāku, ko te kiatu, koutou ki te pō, e moi. Ko te hunga ora, te tūmanakuia ka rere atu tētahi ringa āwhina ki te tautoki a rātou. I hara mai rātou ki Aotearoa nei, me haere atu tātou ki reira ki te āwhina atu. Nō reira, ko aro tunu ngā taringa ki te kororo a te Premier tuarua i tēnei rā, he wāhi ki Aotearoa ki te āwhina atu. Me āwhina atu ka tika, nā rungi te āhuatanga o tā rātou āwhina mai i Aotearoa i te wā o te raruraru. Nō reira, tēnei te whakatau o te Pāti Māori i tēnei rā, ka tautoko ake ngā kōrero katoa, me te tūmanaku ia ka manakitia, paitia, rātou katoa, e te wāhingaru i tēnei wā, te wā o te uaua, te wā o te raruraru, te wā o te tangi, ki te hunga ko ngaru atu te tiroanga kanoi. Nō reira, huri noa, tēnā kūta katoa.
The Honourable Peter Dunn.
Mr Speaker, on behalf of United Future, I want to join with other members in supporting the resolution moved by the Deputy Prime Minister in respect of the horrific earthquake that devastated Nepal and other countries in the region at the weekend. As the television photos have come through and we have seen the signs of the rubble, we saw the dramatic pictures last night of the avalanche on the lower slopes of Everest, the buildings collapsing in and around Kathmandu. The enormity of that event has started to sink in very deeply. At first it was just a trickle of deaths and casualties, now up over 4,000, 100,000 homeless, many more unaccounted for, and even a casualty with respect to a New Zealander confirmed as having died, although from a related condition, as part of the earthquake drama. Mr Speaker, I suspect a few years ago we would have let events like this simply wash over us to some extent. They happened in other places. They were horrific and tragic. But ever since the events in Christchurch, they've taken on a new significance for New Zealanders, because we know, maybe at a smaller scale, what the devastation can be, what the uprooting of societies is as a consequence, and consequently what the need for reconstruction and assistance at times of trouble can be as well. Mr Speaker, I support the initiative taken so far by the government in terms of financial assistance. I agree that it probably will not be where the issue ends. There will be more calls made on our assistance in the future, and we should be prepared unstintingly to provide that. In that context, sir, I acknowledge the readiness and preparedness of our Urban Search and Rescue Unit, which was to have deployed to Tibet last night, but is not required at this time. Mr Speaker, those people gave up their weekend at short notice to be ready to go, and, sir, that is what we would expect of them, and I acknowledge their preparedness and their contribution. Mr Speaker, all of us would share a sense of deep horror at the unfolding events. We wish I was going to say speedy, that's probably inappropriate, but a clear and quick return to a sense of normalcy in Tibet. We hope that the deprivation that has been evident in recent days can be placed under some control, and we look forward to working with the international community to restore the tradition of that proud country and to strengthen further the links between our two nations as we help them recover from this tragedy.